Not planned. This was not planned. And actually, our conversation was not planned either. I went, was it yesterday or 2 days ago?
2 days ago, Wednesday.
I mean, I forget. The days go so fast. 2 days ago, I went to Facebook. You know that little company? I went to Facebook and to do a talk, a fire chat. And I was supposed to do it with Fiji Simo, and she couldn't come, so I inherited Campbell Brown. And then I realized that Campbell has, first of all, she is an amazing woman. She's been a journalist forever, but she will tell you that. She has this very interesting job, and so she was trying to interview me, but I said, I really want to interview you. So I invited her today so that I could interview her. So you have a very interesting job at Facebook. What is it?
So I'm head of news at Facebook, which everyone's like, fake news or real news? Which is kind of both. My team works on two things, which at a high level is trying to reduce the amount of false news, misinformation on the platform, while also trying to elevate and get more visibility for reliable sources of news and information. I joined Facebook right after the election of 2016. I was a reporter for a long time at CNN and at NBC News. And after 2016, Facebook as a company realized they had some real challenges around news that needed to be addressed. And they wanted to build out a team. So they brought me in, and we recruited a lot of news people.
That was, for a journalist, that was a major step to take, right? So
my husband said, you're going to work for a tech company? You do not know how to do track changes on a Word document. And it's true. But the person who was my boss at the time said, you know, we've got plenty of people who understand tech. We don't have anybody who understands news. So
no, I think it's brilliant because, I mean, Facebook is probably the largest community, global community, right? How many people?
2.8 billion people across all our platforms. So that's Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and messaging.
I mean, 2.5 billion people. I mean, that is unbelievable. So you have huge power, but you also, I mean, what has happened is that recently you got such a bad rap because they were, I mean, people manipulated, and so you should talk about that.
So, I mean, I think most people know this. Prior to the 2016 election, during that election, the platform was used by the Russian government to try to influence our election through fake Facebook accounts that they created. The other real problem that I think got less attention, but was probably a bigger issue for us to deal with, was people spreading fake news to try to make, just to try to make money, using, you know, clickbaity kind of stories like a woman ate a frog and you'll never believe what happened next. And you click on that story and it takes you to ads and then they make money. So when you heard about those Macedonian teenagers creating fake news, that's what they were doing. So we as a company staffed up massively after 2016, hiring thousands of people to try to get harmful content off the platform. And it is a very different company today than it was in 2016. And I think, you know, we now, going into this next election, Mark has given us really two things to focus on, given what's currently happening: coronavirus and the 2020 election, which is you have to do everything possible to ensure that, like I said, we're getting rid of the bad stuff and elevating the reliable information so people get what they need.
Is there something as Facebook News?
Yeah, so one of the things that we launched, my team this year, which is, I hope, going to be a big success. We just launched it, but it's called Facebook News. There's now a bookmark on Facebook for you to go and find the top stories of the day curated by a team of journalists, as well as news personalized to you and your interest.
But you also have the New York Times.
Yep. So
explain that.
we've done deals with the big news organizations, the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the broadcasters, the cable companies, to create a destination for news on Facebook. Because if you're on Facebook, you know how serendipitous it is. You're scrolling through your news feed. Mine is mostly pictures of my nieces and nephews and their dogs. And occasionally you'll see a piece of news. But news on Facebook is a relatively new phenomenon. It's only been in the last couple of years that people really started turning to Facebook for news and information. And it made us realize, I think, after the election, that we really had to have a place that people could go and not just serendipitously come across something in their newsfeed, but have a destination for news.
But you actually, I mean, I think that the reason I wanted Campbell to come and talk is because I think people should know that. Because one of the worst thing that I felt in the last 2 years is the fact that truth no longer has value, and there's so many lies. So where do you go for truth? And you said that you're actually spending money. You pay these publications, you pay the New York Times, you pay Wall Street Journal in order to get their story. I think that is a very important information for everyone to have.
Well, it's also just to recognize in the moment, the internet changed everything in terms of how we consume information. And it also deeply affected the business models of the New York Times and the big media companies. And so one of the things we also focus on is really trying to figure out what the new business model is for journalism. Having spent more than 20 years as a reporter, I believe journalism is critical to our democracy. And you're watching a lot of local newspapers around the country go under because they can't make money anymore. And so we're trying to figure out how we can use the tools on Facebook to help news organizations make money so we can keep having great journalism and they'll keep investing in reporters.
So I think this is really important for people to know because Facebook has had a bad rap. I mean, that's not a rap dress, but a bad rap. And I know, because I know Mark and I know the people that they are, that how much they care and how honest they are. So I think this is really important for people to know because community, that is the largest community in the world. So we would like that community to be safe and to be true and to be reliable, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, I will say the reporter in me would also say that Facebook is a huge company with enormous power given the amount of people who are engaged on Facebook, and we should be scrutinized. We should we should have reporters looking at the company, and often good reporting has brought things to light for us that we've then been able to address. So I think it's been a good thing. We have learned so much, and we still have a long way to go to get this right. But I feel like we're in this moment, even just in the last week with the coronavirus stuff, for example.
So where are we there? So
this is a good example of, I think, the good things that Facebook can do in terms of giving people information about what's going on. You can imagine the hoaxes and conspiracy theories that are flying around coronavirus. So we have a team of people now that is completely focused on trying to remove that, focused primarily on the things that would potentially cause people harm, like if you drink bleach, it will cure the coronavirus. Guess what? No, it doesn't. Please don't drink bleach. It's extremely dangerous. But these are the kind of things that we need to get off the platform, obviously. And then we are creating spaces for people to go to get the latest information from the World Health Organization and the CDC. If you search coronavirus on Facebook today, the top of your newsfeed will have all of that information with regular updates. This is I was just tracking sort of the things. Poynter Institute, a journalism organization, was tracking the rumors that are flying around that they're trying to identify and debunk. We also work with fact-checking organizations to try to debunk some of this stuff. And then people in this moment are also trying to exploit fear and the urgency people are feeling around this by selling products that are ridiculous and don't work. So we've banned ads for things that make claims that are obviously not true. If you see, this mask is 100% foolproof. If you spend $200 on this mask, you will not get the coronavirus. And there are lots of companies, Amazon's dealing with this too, that have products that have been created that, are just absolutely worthless. And I think given the broad, this is a global problem, a global pandemic, and given the reach, we are one of the few, lines of communication that can reach that many people. So we have a global team of fact checkers that is now working around the clock to try to debunk as much of this stuff and get it off the platform as we can.
I think it must be quite interesting. You've been trained to be a journalist. You always wanted to be a journalist. And now you end up in this situation where it is about news, but you have this incredible power and this incredible captive audience, which is a huge responsibility. So how do you feel about it? Do you feel proud, concerned, worried, angry, humble? How do you explain it to your friends? I mean...
I feel a little nervous about what the future of journalism looks like. When you say, you have this big responsibility, I think when it comes to people getting the truth about things, that you actually want trained journalists.
That's right.
Telling you the truth.
That's right.
And so there's a balance we have to strike between being a tech company that's made up of mostly engineers. We need to do this in partnership.
Nerds.
There are a few. I'm going to get in trouble for that.
No. Nobody is a bigger nerd than Mark.
We have to do this in partnership with the news organizations. And I will make a distinction. Not all news organizations are created equal. And as you think about the news that you're consuming today, you really do want to be discerning. And we're trying to invest in those news organizations that are putting reporters, boots on the ground in places that we need them, in Syria. A lot of news organizations are just rewriting other people's stuff and putting a new headline on it to make money. It is the largely traditional news organizations that are still spending the money to do the investigative reporting, to take the time required to do the real stories that matter. And those are the news organizations that we need to boost and make sure are successful and that they're getting the visibility they need to be successful.
So what is actually the product that you just launched?
It's called Facebook News, and it's similar to Apple News or Google News, but we needed a place for people to go to find both the top stories of the day, because I think in this environment, you're flipping through your phone, you kind of want a quick look at what the top 5 stories are. But in addition to that, you want something personalized. Sadly, I love the New York Jets. I know. It's a problem. But I have a bunch of boys in my family, and they're all football fans. So I want to know what's going on with the New York Jets. So my news feed will have, the latest, top stories combined with the latest on what's going on with the New York Jets and other things that I'm interested in. After the Golden Globes, I want to see who wore the best dress. So that's in there. We're trying to get better at sort of personalizing it for you so that when you go to Facebook News, you'll get the top stories, but you'll also get those things that are your passion. And I define news broadly. If cooking is your passion, you should be able to find the best recipes from the New York Times along with the top stories. It should be a one-stop shop for, all the information that interests you. And we're also trying to use it to help newspapers, publishers, build subscription businesses, because that's kind of the business model of the future for magazines, for news publishers. And so we don't take a cut. We have built products to help them build their subscription businesses through this news app, with all the money going back to publishers to hopefully over time grow that audience and make it something that's really valuable to publishers.
So you're actually defending your trade.
Yeah, I think
I
look,
think-
it is, if you like to work on hard problems, it's a great job. Facebook is a great place to be. And I think a lot of women want to be mission driven in their work. They want it to be about their passion. And I think you're always more successful if you're doing something that you're passionate about. And I've never found satisfaction in any job that didn't make me feel like it was about something meaningful. And so if I couldn't take a job just to make money. And so I do go into work, and I think most people on my team feel the same way, trying to solve really big problems. And we have big problems, and it's going to take a while, but it feels good to have that sense of purpose.
Well, I mean, when you have such a huge community, it is a responsibility. And I was in Chile. I went to this incredible shaman camp, and they said something like, the community, community creates power. And when you lose the community, you lose the power. So, but when you have the power, you have to make sure that it's good power.
And I think that's what we're trying to do is by dealing with the bad stuff on Facebook, we don't want to lose sight of the good things, which is, groups where, imagine if you have a child who has a rare disease. Imagine what it was like before.
That's right.
Where you couldn't connect with anybody else and compare notes about what you were learning. There are groups now on Facebook where, people can get together and exchange information. There are women's groups on different, there's a great women's travel group that is now started really small and is now, I think, 250,000 people. And there are women in this group who plan trips together. I mean, there's so many ways to connect and build community.
And we launched an InCharge DVF group.
Yes, please join the InCharge group that just launched too, which is going to be an incredible
place.
You
can sign in, and we're going to talk about InCharge. So since InCharge is what we are talking about, when did you feel in charge for the first time in your life?
For the first time in my life.
It could be in your childhood.
Yeah, well, I would say I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life till I was around 24, 25. I thought I wanted to do politics.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Louisiana. And my father is a politician. I was passionate about politics, so I moved to Washington, D.C., and I was interning on Capitol Hill, and I didn't like it at all. And I went to visit a friend who worked in a newsroom, and I remember walking into the newsroom and just feeling almost instantly like, these are my people. This is where I'm supposed to be. I get what they're doing. And it was in that moment that it clicked. I felt like I'm in charge of my life now. I know what I want to do. And from that, I was able to set goals and pursue a career that felt right. And I think, it worked out. I think it does when you find that thing that is really your passion, it's always going to work out.
All right. The second question is, because I say if you own your imperfection, they become your assets. Which one is your imperfection that you turn into an asset?
I am aggressive, bossy, demanding, all of those things that women aren't supposed to be. And I finally just got over it when I was called a diva and a bitch and everything else. And
you owned it.
Owned it and learned to embrace it. And I'm 50. I'll be 52 this summer. It gets so much easier when you get older. I love being 50. You just don't care about all this stupid stuff anymore. You just don't.
And when you get to be 73, even more. Owning your age, and it's very what I've noticed today, first of all, it's been an amazing panel. I mean, really, thank you, Louisella. I mean, it's been just amazing. And what I like is that every woman that was on stage really owned it, and they all talked about their age, and I love that. I think that's great. Okay, so the third question that I always ask people is, do you ever feel like a loser, and what do you do about it?
Of course. I mean, I would say every job I've ever gotten, every promotion I've ever gotten, I felt like I wasn't ready for and I wasn't qualified to do that job. And I think women deal with this a lot, and men don't. And pushing through that and saying, to the old adage, like, fake it till you make it, is something that we have to do. I mean, when I started at Facebook, it was all these engineers speaking in these crazy codes. I had no idea what they were talking about, and I just pretended like I did for about 6 months. And then I figured it out. So I do think, that imposter syndrome, we all have experienced it at some point. And you can't let the fear that creates within you stop you. You've got to push past it. You have to.
And by the way, only losers don't feel like losers. So everyone got a little manifesto on their seat, and in the manifesto that talks about InCharge, it also talks about the 4 things that you should do. Like, for example, connect. Connect is so important. For me, it's like amongst the first 20 emails that I do, I make sure that I send 2 emails that don't benefit me. And with emails, it's so wonderful because you don't have to speak, you don't have to leave a message. You could just introduce this person to that person and just describe them and create a miracle and have a magic wand. And the truth is that when you are in charge, when you have a voice, and even when you're not in charge, we all have a magic wand. And the more we use a magic wand, the more our magic wand is powerful. And so what do you do with your magic wand?
That was the most, I heard you say this when you and I talked on Wednesday about introducing people who didn't know each other, making that connection that you knew was going to lead to something.
Yes, you make miracles.
And that is my commitment going forward, because I am 50. I do know a lot of people by now.
And you could do that.
And I can do that.
Absolutely.
And I hadn't thought about that. Like, just once a week, connecting to people and creating opportunities for people. That really inspired me when you said that, and it is something
I know people connect to that. And the other thing is, remember that the most inspiring thing is not your success. What people are inspired by is by your challenges and by your difficulties and by your vulnerability. And when you talk, you open up to your vulnerability, that is when we inspire. So anyway, I'm very happy. I will be looking forward to Facebook News, and I wanted to make sure that today I have a big audience, that was amplified, and that, so you will chase all the bad fake news.
Thank you. We'll do our best.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.